Welcome to episode 44 of the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Cody B. Today's guest is Dr. Paul Jenkins. Dr. Paul Jenkins is the author of Pathological Positivity, which sold over 15,000 copies the first year after its launch. He's a positivity psychologist, speaker, and author. Paul is a man of faith. He makes no apologies for this because it is his faith that gives meaning and context to everything that he does. It was through his faith and missionary work that he discovered his passion for having powerfully meaningful conversations with real people about important ideas. The first phase of his psychology career was under the mentoring of Dr. Randy Hyde at Preferred Family Clinic, the premier child and family psychology clinic in Utah County. A little over a decade in this setting taught him much about working with families. He found out quickly that not only does he have a love and passion for what he does, he's also really good at it. When he does this thing, people's lives are changed for the better. Paul says that there is far too much negativity, fear, and doubt in the world. He is on a mission to lift and inspire his fellow human beings to create and live a life they love. And now, Cody B.
Hello, everybody. This is Cody B. Welcome to another episode of our Relationship Marketing Podcast. Super excited for our guest today. And we got one of the smart guys on today. Of course, we have smart people on every single week, but this guy has the letters behind his name to prove his smartness. PhD, Dr. Paul Jenkins. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing well, Cody. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's an honor to have you on the show. You know, we've already mentioned your bio in the pre-show here, and so our listeners kind of know about your background a little bit. And best-selling author of the book Pathological Positivity. For those on YouTube, I'm holding this up for you to be able to see. Where can people get a copy of this book?
Well, there's a .com for that title, pathologicalpositivity.com, and my website, drpauljenkins.com, is a place where you can always connect to that as well.
And you also have something on purpose. What is liveonpurpose.com? Is that right?
You're probably referring to my podcast at this point.
That's your podcast, right?
Live on Purpose Radio, actually.
Live on Purpose Radio. Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. And very popular on there as well. So, listen, we just kind of explain to you a little bit. This is a relationship marketing show. Most of our listeners tune in to learn about what relationship marketing is, relationship marketing principles, how to better their business, how to bring on incremental and referral business. A lot of salespeople, marketing people, et cetera, listen into this show. But we also get into personal development. I have a book out titled The Power of Human Connection. In fact, I got a copy of it right behind me here. So this is the Power of Human Connection, how relationship marketing is transforming the way people succeed. And the Power of Human Connection has three parts to it. One is what relationship marketing is. The second is how does relationship marketing fit into the traditional sales and marketing process. And then the third is the most important relationship of all is the relationship you create with yourself. So the last 5 or 6 chapters is all about relationship with self, getting into personal development. Some of the stuff that you focus on is really featured in the last 5 or 6 chapters of the book. So I just wanted to kind of give you that heads up as we get started. I'll tell you, I'm going to call you Paul. Okay, I'm just going to call you Paul. I know you're Dr. Paul, but in fact, you're doesn't everybody call you Dr. Paul? Isn't that what they call you?
You know, that kind of became my nickname.
Is Dr. Paul.
I got a PhD. I mean, the doctor is legitimate, but it became a nickname for me, Cody, back when I was doing live radio, K-Talk Radio in Salt Lake City, and my co-host called me Dr. Paul, and it stuck.
No kidding.
Before that, it was always this, formal Dr. Jenkins and, give you a diagnosis and fill out your treatment plan. But when I shifted over to positive psychology and personal development coaching, the Dr. Paul thing just kind of stuck. So it's really more of a nickname, but my mama named me Paul.
Well, that's great. So, okay, we'll stick with Dr. Paul. I think Dr. Paul is very catchy.
Paul's fine too. Either way, Cody is great.
Well, I'm using Dr. Paul now, so I think that sounds great. Listen, you're kind of living my dream somewhat a little bit. Just to give you a little bit about some of my background. I remember when I started college, I started in psychology and loved my psychology classes. I love human behavior, always have. Even when I was young, like when I was a teenager, junior high school, psychology was everything. I was introduced to personal development books when I was 15 years old. How to Win Friends and Influence People was the first book I read from cover to cover.
Oh, yeah.
I've got thousands of books since then. So I've been a real student of personal development. But back then, you know, this psychology thing was super cool. And I'd go to psychology classes. When I went to college, I did a year with an emphasis in psychology. And I remember starting my second year, I was at Ricks College in now BYU, Idaho, but I was at Ricks College at the time up in Idaho. Mm-hmm. I remember the second year I was standing in a line and I had to choose what do you call that? What do you call that in school now?
Your major?
Your major. I had to choose what my major was going to be, and I'd been studying psychology. So there was literally a line for the psychology school, and there was a line for the business school. Mm. And I had two interests. I had an interest in psychology, and I had an interest in marketing and business. Those were my interests. I was very interested in both. And I chose the marketing lane, and kind of, long story short, ended up 3 years later with a degree in marketing. It was actually a degree in communications, and did an internship in New York for an ad agency, and kind of went the path of marketing. But I never lost the desire to learn psychology. In fact, I always even wanted to be a psychologist. Now, here's what's interesting. And there's a reason I'm teeing this up, because it ties right into who I think you are.
Okay.
So the reason I chose the marketing line is because that first year when I was taking the psychology classes, I was taking abnormal psychology. I was taking, all these classes where the focus was on all the mental challenged people and the crazy, schizophrenia and, bipolar disorder type stuff, and emphasis on medication to balance chemicals and things like that. So as I got going in that, I was like, well, that's not the psychology I want. If this is what psychology, so I kind of shifted, because in that curriculum, it was kind of like psychology was about the people that were broken.
Yep.
I want to focus on the people that aren't broken, but use psychology to help them excel. And I think that's who you are. Is that right, Mr. Positivity?
You just nailed it, Cody B.
It took me a while, but I told you there was a reason that I was teeing it up that way.
Yeah, and I love where that all ended up, because I've discovered the same thing. And interestingly enough, Cody, you know what? I started in chemical engineering. It's what you do if you get good grades in high school in a little town where I grew up, and I'd never heard of a psychologist.
Right.
And so I went into engineering for my freshman year in college, and thought, well, of course, that's what I'm going to do. I'm good at the science and the math. And then I spent a couple of years in Finland doing a volunteer mission for my church, and discovered in that process that what really lights me up is having principle-based conversations, establishing relationships with people that can change their perception or their mindset to something that is far more positive and healthy for them. And it just got me excited. And so I switched over to psychology when I got home. But I discovered the same thing that you were just describing here. Think of your mental health for a moment on a spectrum or a continuum. And clear over on the left end of this continuum is the sick end. So all that abnormal psychology that you're talking about. And I taught abnormal psychology for a couple of years at BYU in Utah. And I know exactly what you're talking about. All these disorders and this crazy stuff that happens to people. So that's over at the sick end of the spectrum. What's at the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah.
And to understand that, if we go to the middle first, that's health. Meaning not sick. You'd think that health is the opposite of sick, but I just mean not sick. So you could be sick in bed with a fever, throwing up. There comes a time you can get out of bed and you're not sick. But that doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's over here at the other end of the spectrum.
So are most people in the middle?
People are all on the spectrum somewhere.
Right.
I think you're probably right. Most people are kind of here in the middle, and there's some overlap in the middle because everybody's got issues.
Right.
You noticed?
Yeah, I certainly have. I have plenty myself.
And if you haven't, pay attention. Everybody's got issues, and we can deal with those with the same principles that we use to help someone who's sick. We can deal with those principles here in the middle of the spectrum to get over whatever issues are keeping us stuck and move into this whole other end of the spectrum that traditional psychology has ignored. It's just been in the past 10 years or so, Cody, that positive psychology is starting to take root. And it's really gaining momentum now too, because we see those same principles can help you to really get things rocking and rolling in your life.
Isn't positive psychology the same thing as personal development? I mean, there's the whole personal development industry that's been around for a long time. The founders of modern day personal development are people like Dale Carnegie and Norman Vincent Peale and big names. Is it the same? Is positive psychology and personal development the same, or is it different, and how?
They're very, very closely related. And it's the same tribe that gravitates toward personal development that would really resonate with positive psychology. You've heard it, right, from the stage or motivational gurus. They say, just think positive.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I like to take the just out of that because it's not a just sort of a thing. In positive psychology, so I have a PhD in clinical psychology. And it was important to me to understand, wait a minute, what is positivity and how does it work? I wanted to know from a psychological kind of a brain standpoint, how does this whole thing work? And I spent years developing a model that helps people to understand exactly how and why positivity actually works so that it's not this trite, fluffy, thing that people sometimes get annoyed by. Mm-hmm. But it's actually based in the psychological sciences around how we understand our existence. And when you see the processes that are going on, it actually moves you into a different level of choice and control. My job as a psychologist is to illuminate the obvious, which is cool because I get paid to tell people things they already know.
Right.
But there's obvious processes going on in your brain. You see them immediately when they're called to your attention. It's kind of like your shoes. Can you feel your shoes?
Sure.
Now.
Yeah.
Is it obvious?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was completely unnoticed until I called it to your attention.
Right. That's right.
Or the fact that we're speaking English. Did you notice?
Now I do.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unnoticed. And that's how our mind is.
Interesting. So there's a word I want to talk about. It's called triggers.
Okay.
In a lot of modern day counseling, anywhere from traditional counseling to even to disorders, addictions, things like that, where people go into counseling, that word's used a lot, triggers. There's triggers that do certain things either negatively or do you use the word triggers? Is that a key word for you when you're counseling people? What is a trigger?
So yes, that's a word that is used very commonly in the personal development, psychology, and the self-help industry as well. A trigger is simply, if you think about a chain, for example, okay, a chain of events that occur, and one leads to the next. If somebody's involved in an addiction, for example, let's use that as a test case, okay? And they've told themselves, look, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to, and they promise themselves, tomorrow's new, I'm not going to do it. And then they find themselves doing it again. What if you were to ask, okay, what happened just before you did that? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that leads to, okay, I took that drink because I was in the bar with my friends. Okay, well, what happened just before you were in the bar with your friends? We were just talking about some stuff and how I was stressed out about some things in my life. Okay, now we're getting closer, okay? Well, what happened just before you were talking to your friends? Well, I was just sitting there at home feeling like my life sucked, okay, or whatever. And you can trace it back and you get to where it started. And for me, that's what's meant by a trigger. The trigger is what puts you on the chain.
Okay, so you can shift that to creating positive triggers. You just explained a scenario of a negative trigger.
An addiction, right?
An addiction, right? That takes you to an addiction behavior. What about positive triggers? So isn't part of it replacing negative triggers with positive triggers? So how do I create triggers that makes me want to read 15 pages in the morning and 15 pages right before I go to sleep? Mm-hmm. What triggers can I create to initiate that? Because I would think that's a positive habit, right? So yes. There's two words there. There's trigger. There's habit.
Yep.
So
I don't know if you've picked this one up yet, Cody, but this is one you'll want to add to your library. It's called The Power of Habit.
Yes.
By Charles Duhigg.
Yes, I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of it.
Put that on your list because he talks about that very thing. And here's the kicker. Sometimes the triggers just happen. Okay, you're going along through life and something triggers you. Okay, you get your feelings hurt, or you have a feeling of some kind. It could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. That can be a trigger. Now, the question becomes, where's that trigger going to lead me? Mm-hmm. Which chain is it going to put me on? And this chain gets stronger and stronger toward the end. So if you follow that chain very far, you're going to complete whatever that chain is taking you to. So if we can shift the direction of where that trigger takes us, and Duhigg talks about this in his book, The Power of Habit. He says you got these triggers that are initiating the sequence. Now, what are we going to do with that trigger that leads us to a whole different outcome? And so you mentioned your book. Why would I want to read 15 pages of your book every day? That sounds hard. Well, what if the trigger is I'm feeling a little discontent in my life? Now, when you look at my book, you'll see I spend some time on discontent because I think that's kind of the impetus or the trigger for all creative endeavors. I feel a little discontent. Now, it could be severe, like I'm in pain, or it could be mild, like, I kind of wish my life was better. Either way, that's discontent. Well, that's the trigger, okay? The trigger then gets tied to a new behavior pattern. Mm-hmm. And the behavior pattern could be, when I feel like I want my life to be better, I practice a habit, or I develop a habit of the power hour every morning, where I spend time reading self-improvement literature or sacred works or whatever it is to get my mind in that. And then I spend another half hour exercising, moving my body. And at the end of that hour, how am I feeling? Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's right? That's the payoff.
So it really comes down to creating positive habits. We all have triggers that take us in a negative way. focus on triggers that will take us in a positive way. And a lot of times, that the power of association, if you've got a trigger that's taking you down the wrong road, perhaps there's a way you can associate that trigger with to make the shift. So in other words, you use the example of the guy that got discouraged in a conversation. So he wanted to go to the bar with his buddies and end up having a drink. And now is creating some addictions because of that. Mm-hmm. He's still going to have let's say he got his addiction under control. Mm-hmm. He's still going to have the same triggers that are going to happen to him. Even if he's got everything under control now, he's been whatnot, he's still going to, down the road, he's going to have another conversation with another group of people that's going to put him down that discouragement road. And there's going to be a trigger.
There will be triggers, yes.
There will be that trigger. So how does he now knowing that trigger is there, how does he associate that feeling? You're big on the word feelings, I noticed. How does he associate that feeling and put it somewhere else? So instead of thinking, I'm going to go to the bar with my buddies, I'm actually going to go listen to the podcast in my car, kind of thing. How do they make the shift?
There's a couple of mind hacks that really help here. And the first one that I want to share with you is called metacognition. Now, that's just a fancy psychological word. We make up words in psychology because it makes us feel smart. And if you break it down, cognition simply means thinking. We'll put that here at this level. Metacognition is a higher level. It's thinking about thinking. Mm-hmm. And notice that you can do this. Okay, this is one of those obvious but unnoticed processes. You can think about your own thinking. This is good news because metacognition creates a little space. And in that space is where choice exists. And I tell my clients all the time, until you see it as a choice, it's not. Mm-hmm. Meaning that trigger is going to take you wherever it normally takes you. Whatever you're used to, whatever you've practiced, whatever has become a habit, that's where that trigger is going to take you. Unless you can pause long enough to think about your thinking, which puts you in a position of choice to take it a different direction. Let me give you an example. Pain. Okay, pain is a very common trigger for all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. All right. I've tried to implement a policy in my own life that pain equals opportunity. All right. Now that might seem weird, but I've built that chain for myself. And I knew I was getting somewhere when I was playing basketball a couple of years ago and I sprained my ankle. Okay, that is so painful. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever done that, Cody, but
especially when you're over 50.
Oh, man.
It hurts. It hurts even more.
Tell you what. Yeah.
Right.
And so here I am, writhing in pain on the basketball court, sprained ankle, and I hear myself say this. This is perfect for me.
Wow.
And everybody's looking at me like, dude, Paul, you've lost it. Did you hit your head?
Yeah.
But I had practiced enough, a different chain. Okay, so the trigger is pain, and it now triggers for me a thought process that says, this is perfect for me. How is this perfect for me? I don't know yet. But taking it that direction is so different from, oh, crap. This just ruined my life. Right? And so the next part of that chain from the trigger of pain, this is perfect for me. What's perfect about this? What is it about this situation that I can be grateful for? And gratitude is one of those mind hacks that can help us to completely change the course of a habitual chain of thinking once it's triggered. Find the gratitude. Find the gratitude. And that puts you on a whole different course.
Well, there's a different energy to gratitude. The vibrational energy of gratitude is so much higher than almost anything else, that it's a great natural trigger to put you in that right place. Now, I've just kind of going along as I listen to you talk, I'm thinking about a couple of things that I see, kind of see as challenges a little bit. You know, there's a movement in personal development, which I'm a proponent of, I believe in wholeheartedly. I teach it myself. However, I think that people take it too much to an extreme. It's this notion of find out what you love and go do it, and got to be in that place of feel good every day. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. You know who you are. Go do your thing. Got to be in a place of feel good every day. And as long as you're that, you're going to excel and be successful. And if you're not in a place of feel good every day, then maybe you ought to do something different. Now, what's right about that message and what's wrong about that message?
That is an excellent question. Because sometimes we don't pause long enough to think about our own thinking and ask that question. Yeah. There's so many things about that are good and right and on the right track. And there are several things about that are completely misguided.
Yep.
And you know this. Okay, so I think the sweet spot, I'll just disclaim this right up front, okay? The sweet spot is that you get to do what you love for those who love what you do.
Now, I want you to repeat that. This was actually in my notes with you, and I underlined it. This is your quote. I mean, this is your quote, and it's one of the most powerful quotes I've seen in a long time. So please repeat that. I was actually going to ask you about this quote later, but you just brought it up. So give us the quote again. And listeners, write this down. If you're driving, just listen. But if you can write, please write this down right now because it's so powerful. Go ahead.
Well, we're recording this, so you can listen to it again if you need to. The sweet spot is when you get to do what you love for those who love what you do.
I love that. I just love that. So good.
Now, here's why that's so important. And because when we just focus on, well, I want to do what I love, that's pretty darn selfish. Isn't it? I mean, who are you thinking about? When we add that second part, you do what you love for those who love what you do. Now we've got a transaction. Mm-hmm. And the only moral way to make money is to create value for other people, not for you.
Right.
You create value for you, you're consuming everything you're producing. When you create value for other people, the people who love what you do, they don't want you to stop. There will be an economic transaction there. The reason you do what you love is not just because you love it. It's because loving it helps you to do all of the hard stuff that's going to be required to continue doing this. If you don't love it, you'll give up when it gets hard.
Yeah, for sure.
This is why most businesses fail. Entrepreneurial businesses.
Yeah.
So you love it. That will sustain you through the hard parts. And you do it not for you, for the people that you can bless because you showed up with your amazing skills and abilities and talents. You do what you love for those who love what you do.
But even when you do what you love for people that love what you do, mm-hmm. You're still going to have bad days.
That's the hard stuff.
You're still going to want to have a temptation to quit. You're going to have setbacks.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times today, people, man, the second they have a setback, it's like, oh, well, I don't love to do this anymore. Or maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. And they bow out.
This is hard.
Yeah, this is hard. So I think that's a real important message. Yes, find out what you love.
Yeah.
Do that for those who love it. And put on your big people pants and go to work.
Work is one of the principles.
Go to work and quit belly aching when things don't go right. Listen, if things go perfect, you're really not going to get very far. There's a fundamental principle to adversity, I believe. Isn't there? Isn't there a fundamental purpose?
I think so. You know what? Here's another saying that I've kind of adopted. Nothing can be in your way unless you're on your way.
Nice.
Of course you're encountering resistance. Elevation requires effort. Default is down. You never hear of someone falling up. And this is true if you park your car on a hill and leave the brake off. You take away the purpose or the intention, and things roll downhill. Is this true of your diet, your relationships, your finances? You quit paying attention, you quit working on it, and it slides down.
That's right.
Not up. So when you notice that it's hard, good. Yeah. That's a good sign. It means we're going the right direction.
So I want to shift a little bit. I want to go back to your book here. I remember the first time I got this book, it was just a couple weeks ago. A mutual friend that you and I have, Bart Ratliff, brought this book into me, and he sat it on my desk. And so I look at it. I don't know you yet. I hadn't even looked at your name. I just looked at the title, Pathological Positivity. Now, if we were on an interactive thing right now, I would ask my listeners, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you read the word pathological? What's the first word that comes to mind?
Crazy.
See, to me, here's the first thing that comes to mind is what do I associate pathological to? I immediately thought pathological liar.
Liar, right.
Because you hear people say, he's a pathological liar. Good heck, I've heard that for my whole adult life. I've heard about pathological liars. I didn't even bother to figure out what pathological meant.
Right.
What does pathological even mean? But boy, I could sure. Pathological to me means that's a really big liar.
Right.
But I don't exactly know what pathological means, I guess. So tell us about the word, because it does draw you in.
You're absolutely right, Cody. And I picked this word on purpose, and I've taken a lot of flack for it, because in the psychological world, the word pathological means disordered, disconnected from reality, crazy. It also means compulsively driven, like in the phrase that you brought up, pathological liar. They can't stop themselves from doing it. It's a disorder for them, okay? So I picked the word pathological positivity because it sounds a little crazy to some folks.
I actually love what I'm proposing. I think it's an incredible headline for a book. I do. If I'm going in a bookstore and I see this, I will draw to it. No doubt about it. So I think it's
awesome.
It's brilliant. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I think it's a brilliant deal, but it does kind of play off of that word for sure.
It does. Yes, on purpose.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to share a little story related to that. And there's a chapter in the book that talks about this. I've been accused sometimes of being pathologically positive, and that's where the title came from. And people would say, oh, you're so Pollyanna-ish. And I didn't even know if that was a compliment.
Right.
So I read the book. We've all seen the Disney movie, Pollyanna and everything's roses and whatever, right? You read the book, you get a little better take on this, because this 11-year-old girl, now check this out, she's 11 and she's orphaned. Okay, at 11, you're old enough to know what's going on. Both of her parents dead, gone. She gets to move across the country and live with her grumpy, rich aunt, surrounded by all the grumpy people who are working for her. Her dad had taught her a game called the Glad Game. It was a game where you take any situation, anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be cancer, it can be a birthday party, doesn't matter. Find something to be glad about. in that thing. It was a game that she played with her dad. She was doing it on purpose. And it changed the energy. It changed her life. In the story, it changes the whole community.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why Disney picked it up. They're like, oh yeah. It's an intentional thing. Yeah. It's not that she's ignoring the pain. She's painfully aware of it. Yeah, life's hard. Get used to that. And then pick a position. Pick a position that serves you well. And you can do it when you understand how to operate the equipment of your own mind.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. So I've got my first book is called Promptings, Your Inner Guide to Making a Difference. Kind of tells my story behind starting Send Out Cards, one of my businesses. Yeah. And, in there, I talk about the importance of acting on a prompting. And a prompting, I explain, as an intuitive thought. You know what the word prompting is. You grew up with that word.
Absolutely.
It's an intuitive thought to reach out in kindness to another human being. And so we've created a greeting card company to help you do that, to where you reach out in positive somebody else. So if you get a prompting to say thank you to somebody, act on it. If you get a prompting to tell someone you appreciate them, you care about them, you did a great job, we get these promptings all the time. And in the book, I talk about the belief that if you act on those promptings, they will guide you to wherever you're supposed to go in your own life. Mm-hmm. How do you tie that principle? And I know you're a very faith-driven person as well. How do you tie that principle to pathological positivity? How does that play into the positive psychology that you're an expert at?
I think the first place I want to go with that, and yes, Cody, thank you for the acknowledgement, because I do identify myself as a man of faith. And I believe that there are forces for us and forces against us. It's kind of like the little shoulder angel and the shoulder devil in the old cartoons. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And I think that there's some reality to that. In fact, it's a psychologically sound principle to understand that the voices we hear in our head are not us. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a person who's into spirituality or faith, think of it this way. Your brain is offering up different possibilities to you. Yep. Okay? And if it comes from your brain or if it comes from your God, just understand that some of the source of what's going on in your own head is not you. Okay? Shoulder angel, shoulder devil, however you want to conceptualize this. Now check it out. You'll hear conflicting voices. And I think we can boil it down to a strategy that was shared by Wendy Watson Nelson. She used to head up the marriage and family department at BYU. She's currently married to Russell M. Nelson, who some of your listeners may be familiar with. And she suggested that you can discern where that voice is coming from by asking a simple question. Whose agenda does this support?
Wow.
Now, you talk about a prompting. So you have a voice in your head that says, you know what? I should just really send a card over to Cody B. Let him know that I just love him and appreciate him, right? You hear that voice. Whose agenda does that support? Now, what's your agenda?
Right.
I've asked this to a lot of people, and if you look at my book, Cody, you'll see I make a big deal out of all we want is the feeling, which I label as joy. All right? I think that's our whole purpose for being on the planet anyway, is to experience joy. Does that prompting, that voice, that thing that you heard, support an agenda of joy? Mm-hmm. If it does, act on it. Nice. Because that's your agenda.
Yeah.
And even if it came from outside of you, it's on your side. Now, what if it says, oh, I'm just no good. I can't do anything right. Well, whose agenda does that support? And if it's the agenda of your enemy, which is that you'd be miserable, then why would you listen?
Right. Good. Excellent. Very, very good stuff. Really, really good. Well, I wish we had more time. I think we could spend hours talking about different things. And
oh, yeah.
I'd love to be able to collaborate with you in the future, maybe do some projects together. We have some speaking events that we do where we have people come in. We'll talk to you further. Maybe we could figure out how we could work together on a live stage. Just love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. So Dr. Paul Jenkins, everybody, make sure you get a copy of his book, Pathological Positivity. You can find it. Can you give us the websites once again?
Yeah, two places you can go, pathologicalpositivity.com or drpauljenkins.com. Either way, you can get a copy there.
Yeah, please do, and make sure that you study that along with me, because I'm looking forward to that as one of my next reads. So appreciate you being with us today. Any final words? Just final words of counsel, golden nuggets. Floor's yours.
Cody, I'm going to share with you, and before I do, thank you for the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I've known about Send Out Cards for years. I actually have an account that I've used a little bit. Probably ought to use it more. You're spreading some good things in this world, and I want to put all my support behind people who are making a positive difference like you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
As some parting words, at least for today, and there's always another conversation. I love that too.
Yep.
I'm going to share with you what a 93-year-old neighbor shared with me just before she passed away. And I was having a similar conversation with her where I said, what have you learned, from this rich life experience? She knew that she wasn't going to be around a lot longer. And with all the wisdom of that 93-year-old sweet woman, she said this, Paul, don't be too quick to believe everything you think. I thought she was going to say everything you read, everything you hear on the internet. Everything you think.
Wow.
Be discerning. Like we were just talking about, you figure out whose agenda does this support, and then you follow those ones that support an agenda of joy. But we've got enough hate in the world. We've got enough intolerance. Let's get out there and start loving each other a little better.
Wow.
And accepting, creating joy for each other. That's what I'd leave you with.
Thank you very much. Dr. Paul Jenkins, everybody, author of Pathological Positivity. Appreciate you being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Please make sure you tune in. Tell everybody about this podcast. There's a lot of great vibrational energy, if you want to call it that. Spirituality, if you want to call it that. Just good, old-fashioned, positive thinking kind of stuff, if you want to call it that. Learning how to better your business. Relationship marketing is all about the first word, sprinkled in with a little bit of the second word, marketing, and you can really transform your life. Thanks, everybody. Take care and tune in again next week. We'll see you now.
If you have enjoyed this episode of the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Cody B, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave a review so that together we can get this message, The Power of Human Connection, out to the world. You can find Cody's new book, The Power of Human Connection, on Amazon or the Send Out Cards gift store.